Well, good morning. We're underneath the nose of our 2011 Wildcat fifth wheel this morning, and I'm going to be showing you how to remove one of these front jacks today. As you'll see these black streaks on here, um, I've got some grease and oil that's getting all over the front of my jacks, and the old grease that's up in there from the factory it's finally gotten to the point where it's just the oil separating out of it, and it's becoming kind of a mess. So I tore this one down already last fall. Today we're going to jump over and do the other side, and I'm going to walk you through the process of how to remove one of these jacks, clean it all up, and repack new grease up in there in those gears for you. Stick around. So obviously the first thing we've got to do is we've got to support the trailer so that we can take the weight off the jacks. I'm going to be using a bunch of blocks of wood as cribbing today, and basically building myself up a platform on both sides. I'll raise the trailer up with the jacks, get my blocking built up underneath there, and then I'll set it down on those blocks to take the weight off the jacks so we can remove them. As you can see here, we've taken the weight off of our jacks. We're supported on both sides with a jack stand to the frame. And it's important you support both sides, just in case, but we are going to be disconnecting this shaft right here. There's a nut and bolt we're going to take out. And then this shaft here is telescopic, so we're going to slide it back. That's going to disconnect this shaft from this jack shaft. And then this bolt and nut are what we've got, one here and one here, and that's what holds this jack assembly in place. So we'll be loosening all that up. We'll take this out. We will have to come down here and disassemble a few things. 11 millimeter. And that's an Allen wrench on top. Probably metric. Oh, it's not. Every now and then, somebody actually uses American stuff. There we go. Alright, slide that back and just kind of let her hang there in place. So now we've isolated. Now something that when I did this job I realized that I never knew is there's a grease zerk right here on the front of this jack. There's one on both sides. Nobody ever told me that when I bought my fifth wheel, so we've been using it since 2010, 2011, and they've never been greased. So we're greasing them today. We're actually going to drop down here to the bottom. That way when we raise this up, we won't be contending with that lower piece. I'm pretty sure that's how I did it last fall. We'll find out. Alright, we just got to take these two clamps loose up here. 9/16. That bottom one is handy to have a flat ratchet, which I just so happen to have. I had to get a screwdriver in there and pry on the head of that carriage bolt last year. Maybe not. Everything's a hammer, right? There she goes. There we go. Just had to remove some old paint. Again, we're going to chip all this spray foam away from here. Pull it out at an angle. Okay, so How did I do this? I don't think I went out the bottom. I must have gone out the top. In which case, I probably need to spin this shaft. Yep, I think so. So we're going to stick our Allen wrench through there. And let's see. Nope, that's taking it down. We'll go this way and take it up. Back. So we're going to lift this assembly up. Move you guys back here so you can kind of see a little bit more what's going on. There we go. Drop that out the bottom. Tip it over and up from the inside. Okay, there you go. So now what we've got to do is we've got to take the cap off top of our jack here. And we're going to move out someplace where we've got a little bit more room to work, so I'm not hunched over. I'm going to do my best to give you guys a bird's eye view because I am just filming with an iPhone and a tripod. So I don't have one of those nice fancy GoPros that goes on my hat like a lot of the big YouTubers have. Maybe someday when I get enough subscribers and get monetized, I can afford that kind of stuff. Hint, hint, subscribe. Okay, that's my plug for the day. I hate being that guy, I really do, but if you don't ask, sometimes people just don't think about it, and I'm just as guilty as the next guy, so please don't take that personally. I watch a lot of stuff and don't subscribe, but you really should, because people are out there doing this. They need the support. So, got 2 small screws and 2 small washers. That one looks like it's stuck. Our cap comes off. And now we're looking down inside. Turn the lights on. I don't know how much it's going to help, but looking down inside of that shaft. So here's your gear. Let me grab that little Allen wrench again, and I can show you what's happening inside of here. So as this shaft spins, you can see it's driving that gear. And there, that's how she goes up and down. Down inside underneath that piece is a worm gear. We're going to get all that torn out of there in just a few minutes so you can see what's what. I did this last year. I've got to remember now how this comes apart. There was a ring or something of the sorts that I had to take out of there. And oh, it's right here. It's right here. There's a ring. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'll try to get some more of this grease out of here so you can see it. So there's a snap ring on the outside edge of this gear right here. That snap ring, if I remember correctly, is what holds this gear in place. And I think after I removed that, I was able to slide this shaft out. We'll see. We'll relearn together. How's that sound? Because I don't remember. I did it last fall. I do remember it being kind of a pain in the neck to do. So I've got it started. Oh yeah, I definitely remember this being a pain in the neck. So I rotate this as we pull this shaft off. Oh yeah, I can see it now. Hang with me, folks. Once we get this ring out of the way, I'll show you what's got to be done here. Okay. Well, that little ring is not the easiest thing in the world to deal with, but right here, there's a pin, and that pin goes through this entire shaft. I went to the garage and grabbed a couple punches. That one looks like it'll do the trick. Well, that's not going to work out too well with you guys hanging there, is it? You guys are going to have to move. I don't want to be smacking you. Well, that's not working out too well. Did that only drive one way? Why don't I go out of there one way? Thinking it might have to go out the other side. That ring being on there makes it a little challenging to turn the gear. Yep, there we go. Now she's moving. Well, I think I drove it all the way out. Yep, okay, so now the shaft will move. Make sure you guys are in frame. Be ashamed to do all this work and then find out I didn't get it on film. So now that I drove that pin out, this whole shaft will come out of there. But it's important to remember where everything was. So there's our shaft. Then we can lift this collar out from inside, along with our gear. All that yummy, yummy grease. That goes down here. And then there's these bushings in the sides here. I don't remember, yeah, they just push out. They just push out. That's one. That's two. Now that pin is down in there somewhere. There it is. See if I can fish it out of there with my little hook. Where'd my little hook go? A magnet would be swell right now. There it is. Okay, so there's our pin. So no fear of it, disappearing because there is a lip here. It's not going anywhere. All right, so now this gear will lift right off the top of our shaft, which is our jack shaft itself that runs it up and down. Basically, there's a nut on the other side. So you'll see this has a slotted keyway there. It sits in there. So there's another pin in there that floats back and forth. I don't know if you can see that or not. Try to get you a shot here of that. I do apologize. I know it's black and it's hard to film. And my hands are covered with all kinds of goodness right now, grease and such. Lighting is not the best for what I'm doing. So there's some light. So now you should be able to see. I'm going to pick in there. You should be able to see that pin move. And I can just push that pin right out this back side over here, and that will allow me to pull that assembly off. My fingers in there. There's that pin. Now this assembly will just lift right out of there. So that's a washer. It has got a little bit of a cone on the bottom of it. Have a quick look at the other side. Ah, yes. So that slides off of there now. So now we can see. So there's the top of our other. So that's just a bearing in there that allows the shaft to rotate. That's isolating your top gear from your worm gear or corkscrew gear, however you want to refer to it. Basically, this is going to turn now and come all the way up out of there. Okay, just like that. So when we're done, what we'll wind up with is we'll have this shaft all out of here. We'll be able to clean all that old grease off, put new grease on, clean off all the old, separated oil that we've got in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that wound out of there, and I'll show you guys where we're at. So when you're done, this is what you're gonna have. That shaft, that screw shaft, has a stop to it. It's not gonna come all the way out, but that will expose all your threads here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a bunch of rags and we're gonna wipe as much of that old grease off of here as possible. And we're gonna use some brake cleaner and clean it all up. We're gonna clean all that grease off this outside body here. So when you're greasing these with this grease zerk right here on the side, hopefully you can see that. It's black and black, so I can see it. I think you can see it. So when you're greasing that, you're actually below this section. So you're not greasing this upper gear. What you're doing is you're adding grease to that shaft there. And so over the course of, what, 13 years, 14 years, I've never added any grease. It's still got plenty in it, but, should I have been greasing it? Probably. Probably all should be greasing them, but I doubt anybody is. I guess if you knew that was there, let me know in the comments, will you? Because nobody ever told me, and I quite honestly never saw them. So yeah, we're gonna get to work. I'm not gonna film cleaning it up. I think you guys can imagine using a rag and wiping that off and spraying brake cleaner on it. So we'll get back to you here when it's time to put it back together. Well, an update for you. So I've got the whole thing pretty much cleaned up. Just sprayed it, used almost a whole can of brake clean. I'm not worried about getting every little piece of grease out of this shaft, because quite frankly, it was still pretty much wet. So it was, still usable grease as far as a lubricant, but got most of it sprayed out of there. Got that all wiped down with brake cleaner and paper towel. But I did want to show you this top here. It's kind of hard to tell, but to me that looks like it's been severely worn. I can't tell if that used to be a ring that went all the way around here. That's looks like brass, and it looks to me like it used to have a lip around the outside that is no longer there. So I don't know if that's just the way it was manufactured, or if pieces have worn and sheared off of there, like there used to be a brass bushing, piece between this. But that's a little bit unsettling, but that doesn't look to be serviceable, so that would probably require just replacing this entire jack assembly. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so we've got a bunch of shiny parts down there. I've got all that old grease cleaned off of them. That first pin that we drove out that I had difficulty with, that is knurled. So hopefully you can see that. I got about 90% of the grease off my hands. So yeah, we're gonna start greasing things up and put it back together. We are gonna be using some Lucas red and tacky grease that's in my grease gun. And I am going to put a thin layer all the way up that screw shaft, and then run that back down in as I go. I will be putting grease on everything as I put it together. One, it just kind of helps hold things in place so they're not sliding around so easily. But two, that way we make sure everything gets a nice coat of grease as it goes back together and we don't miss anything. So a hidden benefit to making videos for you guys, even if you're not a YouTuber, which, don't get me wrong, I don't claim to be a big YouTuber. I've got a very small channel, but I guess that still makes me a YouTuber in a sense. But if you're tearing something apart, I suppose I could get this camera flip so you're not just looking at the floor. See, I'm not a good YouTuber. There you go. Now you can see my pretty face. It's probably covered with grease splatters from Breakaway. But anyway, a benefit to making YouTube videos is you do a project like this. Maybe you're not even making it to put it on YouTube, but make yourself a video as you go along. If you're unsure or you're afraid that you're going to get something, you're going to forget how it goes back together, you can always rewatch your own video. I hate to tell you this, but I've had to do that a couple of times when I've been making videos. I'm pretty good at taking things apart and getting them back together, but every now and then something comes apart and you get distracted and you go back and you're like, oh, how'd that go? Well, you got it on video, you can always rewatch your own stuff. So just a little snippet there for you. If you're tearing into something and you're not sure, make a video of it while you go along. You have a little fun with it too. So even if nobody ever watches it but you. So we're going to get back to this here. I'm going to get you flip back around and probably going to speed this up. It's going to be a time-consuming process, but you'll see it going back together. All right, so that is it for this portion. Now we're going to slide the shaft back over top of it again. So if we look at the way this sits, the side that bumps out goes to the outside. No, goes to the inside because the grease zerk was on the front. So if I look here, my grease zerk over here is facing me. That grease zerk was facing me. But then what you need to pay attention to is down here in the bottom, your clamp marks here. So it looks to me like we were sitting this way. So we're going to slide that back together like so. And now assembly is the reverse of disassembly. So there was this cone shape went down. And then we had a pin, small pin. So your small pin sits inside of there. So that's going to go in first. A pair of needle nose pliers is very handy for this. And it just slides right in there pretty easy. So that gear is going to sit down on top, just like that. Now I'm going to take this all back out because I'm going to grease it, but I'm just doing a dry run to make sure I remember how this all goes back together before we get too carried away. So I'm going to just start pumping some grease in here. So that'll be a nice layer of grease down there underneath our cone. Take and smear some of that on there before we get started. I probably should be wearing rubber gloves, but I'm kind of old school. I just don't mind getting my fingers messy. I do and I don't. I wipe it off a lot. How's that? Here's our little pin. See, I know this would be easier with needle nose, but it's a challenge. So I was able to do it without. So everybody likes a good challenge, right? I'm going to grab my gear. You guys aren't going to be able to see it because I'm down here. Well, you might. If I do it right here, you might see it. Put some grease on the bottom of that. Make sure that's coated. Grease on the inside. See which way it's got to sit. It's down on that pin. Now we'll take put a nice layer of grease on top of the gear. And be very generous with that. Now we start putting the upper assembly back in. These bushings have a flat spot on them, which goes down. Find that. Okay, so I believe in full transparency on this channel, and I think everybody learns best from making mistakes and maybe even learning from other people's mistakes. So I'm going to level with you guys. We just took a step backwards here for a minute. So I had this all put together and put it back in the camper and was starting to run the jack, manually, not under power. And I noticed something didn't feel like it was working right, and one of these bushings popped out. Well, the reason it popped out is because I put it in backwards. They go in from the inside, push out, and I did it the other way around. So as soon as I started putting pressure on it, it walked right out of there. So we are back to our assembly process again here. I'm doing it the right way. So now we've got the bushing on the inside, pushing out, and it can't fall out of there. There we go. Let's get some grease back on this shaft here. Grease on the outside of this one. I'm going to set you just inside, like so. And then we've got our gear with our washer, so our grease is holding our washer in place. Set that down in there. Ideally, I'll set it so it's facing up so you can drive your pin in. Okay, and we need our bushing. There we go. Now we can drive our pin back in. And find our snap ring, push it back into the groove, and then we want to make sure we spin the snap ring. There we go. So get her about 90 degrees to that pin, and that'll keep it from walking out of there. Although I doubt that would happen, as hard as you have to drive it to get it to go in there. Now we're going to fill that cavity back up with some more grease and reinstall our cap for the second time. And it's ready to go back in the camper. Just kind of hold it over to the side and let it drop back into its grooves. These are a lock nut. They're crush nuts. They're crushed in one spot. So they don't go on very far before they need the use of tools. Now what we need to do is run that jack down. And we counted 11 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep. So we counted 11 holes from the bottom up, not including this pin. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll just put this bolt in here as a spot marker. And then we'll grab our Allen wrench here And for the second time, we will run this jack down. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. There's my pin. My pin in there. Reinstall our clamp. That works well. Okay, now this would be the perfect time, if your jacks are uneven, to fix that. And by that I mean, if you notice when you're parked most of the time one jack hits the ground before the other, that is the case with this camper. I can tell you that most of the time that jack hits the ground first, which, looking at the amount of gap I have between my two boards, that's the case. Now the only thing is, if the camper's not level, then you wouldn't necessarily want them hitting at the same time. In my case, it's leaning to the passenger side right now, so in theory I would want that hitting the ground first. So I'm going to go ahead and run that one down to where it's just touching the board. Okay, that'll help even me out a little bit from where I used to be. And we're going to take the shaft and put back on here. I may need to rotate that just a hair to line that hole up perfectly. That looks like about it right there. We'll come in here and put our bolt back through from the top. There we go. It's tight. And it's ready to support the weight of the trailer again. So while I've still got jack stands under it, we're going to go ahead and run those jacks down, check it all out. All right. Looks like we are off both jack stands, and trailer is once again supporting its own weight. So another job well done. Hopefully I did my best when I edited this video for you and kind of made it as condensed as possible. Obviously this took a lot longer to do than the video that you're watching. So hopefully I've been able to shorten that up, but still show the important steps. If this is a project you are wanting to tackle and you watch this video to learn how to do it, I hope it was helpful. If there's something that I didn't do that would have been helpful, please leave it in the comments. That helps me for future video content, helps me kind of remember that I'm doing it for somebody else, not just for myself. So again, as always, I hope you found it helpful. Thanks for watching and have a great day.